Good afternoon, my name is Josh from Cyclones Oz, and I've got a detailed update in regards to the severe thunderstorm outbreak that appears to be imminent across southeastern Queensland, Brisbane and the Gold Coast. You could be in the firing line for some potentially gnarly thunderstorms. As we're tracking this thunderstorm line that's tracking across southeast Queensland, it's now beginning to push out into the Pacific Ocean. There are a couple of strong thunderstorms here and there through parts of the Burnett forecast district, but for the most part, this rainfall and cloud cover is now pushing out into the Pacific. And what we're tracking now is this line of speckled cloud that's beginning to push into the Granite Belt and the Darling Downs, and this is where our next thunderstorm surge is expected to occur. In fact, we're looking at the potential for some dangerous thunderstorms developing towards the west of Toowoomba and Warwick in the next 3 or 4 hours, then tracking up into the Burnett area and the Wivenhoe Outlook, and potentially even into the Scenic Rim later this afternoon and this evening, with some potential long-tracked, powerful supercell thunderstorms. Now, you've heard me say potential about 5 times already this forecast update, and why am I saying that? Well, it's because it is still all on a knife's edge. There's a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of details in this forecast that still need to be ironed out, but I'm going to go through what's happening right now and what we can expect based off the current forecast model guidance. If you are brand new to my channel, please do consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video whilst you're at it. But let's dive straight into the details and what we're having happening through southeast Queensland right now. This morning we've seen this line of patchy thunderstorms moving through the southeast of Queensland. There's been a few thunderstorms here and there that have got up to severe, including 1 or 2 around the Warwick area about 3 or 4 hours ago. They really didn't amount to anything, to be honest. In fact, they've since dissipated, and a couple of heavy drops of rainfall around Roma earlier this morning, and a couple of good drops and cracks up into the Gympie area as well through the North Burnett area. Now, we haven't seen much into the Brisbane area either. Ipswich has been pretty dry. Brisbane's been pretty dry so far. It's been overall a bit of a fizzer, but this is bad news for this afternoon, because these thunderstorms have been so much weaker than expected, and this line really hasn't lived up to any expectations whatsoever. It's not really sapped that much instability out of the environment, which means we've still got a convectively favourable atmosphere for thunderstorm activity. And you can also see that cloud coverage here that was plaguing southeast Queensland earlier at 1 o'clock local time is now beginning to push out into the southeast, and it's not going to be long until this is in the Pacific Ocean. Now, to be honest, through southeast Queensland, particularly through the Gold Coast hinterland, the greater Brisbane area, and also the Sunshine Coast, this cloud cover is not going to leave you until about 2:30, 3 o'clock this afternoon for good. And that's just not going to allow enough time for significant heating to occur. And we need that significant heating to occur for powerful, long-tracked supercell thunderstorms to occur. But it is now beginning to clear outside of Warwick and Toowoomba. You can see clear skies now towards the west of Toowoomba and Warwick, out in the Dalby area, Millmerran, Chinchilla, and then out towards St George, Thallon, Goondiwindi, and Roma. Clear skies out there, and that is prime conditions for potential severe thunderstorm development. So these are the areas that we're going to be watching over the next couple of hours, because it is now clear we're seeing these temperatures continue to rise, and we're already out into the high 20s with dew points into the high teens and the early 20s through this part of Queensland. Already a very favourable atmosphere for thunderstorms to potentially get themselves going. Now, convective available potential energy is not anything special throughout the course of today. In fact, you can see convective available potential energy values, while they do surge up a little bit later this afternoon into this evening, particularly around the Toowoomba area and outside of Warwick, as these thunderstorms are expected to continue to develop after about 3 or 4 o'clock. These values do shoot up into the mid-2000s. It's not that high-end cape that we've been talking about throughout the course of this week, so we're not expecting any whopper thunderstorms like we saw on Monday into the Brisbane area, or on Thursday through parts of North Brisbane and into the Scenic Rim. These thunderstorms are going to be comparatively a lot weaker, so if you are already comparing these to Monday or Thursday's thunderstorms, stop, because it's just not going to shape up anything like that. We are still talking about the risk of large hailstones though, potentially giant hailstones, but again, very, very isolated if we do see giant hailstones, and likely to only happen into the Wivenhoe Outlook as well through the National Park area. So we're probably not going to be talking about any kind of population centres being impacted by giant hailstones. It's still a good idea to make sure you remain vigilant on the warnings and the radar imagery, and if you do see a particularly strong storm take aim at your location, then prepare for potential giant hailstones. But at this point in time, really not that much of a concern at this point in time, or at this stage in time. But yeah, those Cape values are beginning to rise, and they're a lot higher than what we were looking at over the last couple of days. Nearing on 3,000 is enough to get some strong severe thunderstorms off the ground, but it's not something I'd be overly concerned about right now. This is a look at the Eastern Blue Air forecast model, and you can see it's already going ham through some of these storms into the Scenic Rim, and also through a couple of storms here into the North Burnett and the South Burnett forecast district. And just on the leading edge of the hills and mountains around Kingaroy and Yarraman, there's some good thunderstorm activity now on the forecast modelling here, basically along this line developing from about 5 o'clock. Now, the Scenic Rim, I believe, is just not going to be convectively favourable enough for thunderstorms today, considering that they are still plagued with that high cloud coverage from the line of showers and the odd storm that rolled through earlier. I don't think the scenic rim is going to produce today, but it is a chance, and especially if things can get cleared up by around 2 o'clock, it will have at least 2 or 3 hours to really warm up into the mid-30s, and that could be enough to get some severe thunderstorm activity off the ground into the scenic rim. So whilst it's unlikely through Boonah, Rathdowney, Bow Desert, Cooralbin, those locations, it's not completely written off at this point in time, and I want you to remember that the chance is there, but it's not overly likely right now. By extension, this also throws Ipswich and Brisbane into the firing line, and as you can see, as we push this forecast modelling forward, we may see a good storm or two move up into the Wivenhoe Outlook just towards the north of Ipswich and Brisbane, but I also don't think that this is overly a concern on the forecast right now, again, just because of that high cloud coverage. If powerful severe thunderstorms are going to get themselves going, I expect them to get themselves going into the Toowoomba area, up through Crow's Nest, west to Dalby, north to Kingaroy and Proston. Now, this is the most convectively primed area for severe thunderstorm activity today, and you can already see in that circle, cloud coverage is now beginning to clear out, and we've got some of those thunderstorms already beginning to get themselves going. So this will definitely be the area to watch for severe thunderstorm activity. Now, considering the jet stream is going to swing around to push these thunderstorms a little bit more towards the northeast, this also throws Brisbane out of the firing line for these severe thunderstorms. And we're expecting these storms to then track up through the Wivenhoe Outlook and then into the South Burnett forecast district. Again, taking them out of Brisbane and Ipswich and really removing those places from the equation today. Again, it's a very good forecast for Brisbane because a lot of these storms, if they do develop near Brisbane, they're likely to curve away from the Brisbane city area, protected by that jet stream and its motion throughout the course of today. It's still an interesting feature that we need to be watching, and we can't write off the chance of storms moving through Ipswich and Brisbane. All I'm saying is that it is marginally lower than the chance that for storms have a little bit further north, and also conversely a little bit further south as well. Brisbane is kind of that 30% chance of severe thunderstorm activity, when the Wivenhoe Outlook's closer to 50% and the scenic rim's closer to 40%. It drops off a little bit into the Brisbane area. Now, if we have a look at a convective sounding here later this afternoon and this evening, you can see conditions are still pretty favourable for thunderstorms. We have a massive dry slot into the mid-levels, which could support some large hailstones, but overall the atmosphere is still relatively dry. It's not the most moist atmosphere that we've seen, but considering the fact that we have had that line of showers come through, it's likely to end up being a little bit more moist than what this convective sounding does have to say, which is good news for thunderstorms. That does increase their chances of being severe a little bit more. Very high-end wind shear as well. You can see that our bulk shear levels are between 60 to 70 knots. So that's much higher than what it normally is on a severe thunderstorm day, because this can be very helpful to get severe thunderstorms off the ground and keep them going for a long period of time. So if thunderstorms do get going, we're likely to see our supercell thunderstorm mode, which is our most dangerous type of thunderstorms, and that's where very dangerous severe thunderstorms can occur. Now, in the lower levels through this part of the Burnett and the Wivenhoe Outlook, winds are coming out of the west and then pushing these storms up into the east-northeast, which means, again, tracking away from the Brisbane area. If they develop around Crow's Nest, they may go into Caboolture or into the Bribie Island area, but they'd have to develop between Toowoomba and Clifton to go into the Brisbane area. And at this point in time, that doesn't look overly likely. Also, considering the fact that the strongest storm activity this morning was also around the Toowoomba area, so the environment is kind of sapped in this red area here already, and I don't expect further severe thunderstorm development to occur down here. Do you see where I'm going with this forecast? It's a lot to take in. There's a lot of little niche things that we've been observing throughout the course of today, and a lot of niche things that we're keeping up to date with the forecast models. It's been a lot of work and it's been a headache, and this forecast continues to remain one that I'm very much still scratching my head over. There's a lot that could go wrong, but there's also a lot that could go right for these severe thunderstorms. So again, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. It makes it all worthwhile. And of course, I will run some live coverage on these severe thunderstorms if they do develop in a significant capacity through southeast Queensland, particularly if they do develop around the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area. So make sure you are subscribed for that, and you don't want to miss the notification. But anyways, back to the program. We've got some pretty good conditions for these severe thunderstorms, all things considered. It looks okay. Marginally better conditions on the forecast modelling here around that Wivenhoe Outlook and into the South Burnett. It looks a little bit drier down into the scenic rim, and again, we've got those westerlies pushing in the mid-levels, which is going to keep things a little bit drier. And that's also why the heaviest rainfall was a little bit further north this morning, was because the atmosphere is just a little bit more moisture up there, and that's why the scenic rim has not picked up much rainfall today. In fact, a few spots have barely managed to scrape together just a couple of millimeters, because you can see that blue line and that red line, the red line being the temperatures and the blue line being the humidity, are very, very far separated. The blue line, sorry, being the dew point, and that indicates our humidity, and it gives us a good indication that the atmosphere is very, very dry. Our wind shear is also not as healthy into the scenic rim, which means if those thunderstorms develop, they will likely be marginally weaker. Now, all of these things together, dry air, or that dry slot, that moisture pressure in the atmosphere, wind shear, all coming together to present the risk of some large hailstones. But I would like to stress that it's not going to be anything like the hailstones we've seen this week so far. Hailstones will be smaller, probably between 3 to 5 centimeters in diameter, as opposed to the 5 to 10 centimeters that we've seen on the forecast modeling over the last week. It's still a much healthier day than what we initially expected for severe thunderstorm development. And these are going to be the areas to watch. We can already see a couple of storms blowing up here around the Taroom area, so they're definitely going to get themselves going later. And it looks like our cloud coverage is beginning to increase here just towards the southwest of Chinchilla and the northwest of Gundawindi. And as this cloud coverage moves towards the east, this is the stuff that we want to see for severe thunderstorm development. And as this one also moves out towards the east, that's going to help severe thunderstorms get off the ground. Now, how do I rate this compared to this morning's forecast? Well, already doing a lot better than expected. I didn't actually expect this cloud coverage to clear out of southeast Queensland until at least about 3 or 4 o'clock, but it looks like for the most part it's going to be clearing by around 1 o'clock, and particularly into our thunderstorm grounds right now at 1 o'clock when I'm recording this video update, it is a lot clearer than what I initially expected, and that's going to allow these temperatures to rise substantially. Whilst we don't have any direct temperature observations just yet, into the Toowoomba area, when I did check whilst researching this video update, it's already jumped up to about 28 degrees there. We've got 30 degrees up here at Fairview outside of Croston, and a couple of observations outside of Millmerran, Cecil Plains and Dalby already tickling on about 31 degrees as well, with dew points into the low 20s. Already pretty favourable for some thunderstorm development. It's looking pretty good this afternoon. I'm now going to backtrack on my forecast that I gave at about 9 o'clock this morning, where I was pretty keen on backtracking from my initial claim that severe thunderstorms are going to develop, and I'm going to go back to my original forecast yesterday. I hope this is all making sense, and say that severe thunderstorms are now more likely than not across southeastern Queensland later this afternoon and this evening. I definitely reckon we are going to see something. If it's going to be special or not, still a few things that need to be ironed out. Again, we need this cloud coverage to properly clear out of southeast Queensland very shortly, and it definitely looks like that's the case right now. I mean, if we compare it to just an hour ago, you can see that there is a lot less cloud coverage, and it's also a lot less dense as well. And as we take a look at our forecast modeling from on our high cloud coverage models here, you can see that cloud coverage now really properly beginning to get itself cleared out too, and that's expected to continue to be the case over the coming couple of hours. Our convective forecast modeling has pretty much squat occurring through southeast Queensland tonight, which is interesting, but it's also dramatically overestimated the amount of high cloud coverage today. So if we were to extrapolate that and take that into account, it's likely that the convective forecast modeling, if it was actually being accurate today, we would be looking at a pretty high-end severe thunderstorm outbreak from the Axis convective model. That's all scientific gobbledygook, but what I'm trying to say here is that the Axis convective forecast model is initializing, it's predicting these storms based off the wrong information that it's gotten or ascertained from the current environment and the current setup through southeast Queensland. As long as we see 1 or 2 spots get up to about 34 or 35 degrees today, and as long as those dew points remain in the early 20s, up around the 22, 23 or 24 degree mark, that would be very favorable for some severe thunderstorms, and we could see some strong long-track supercells. And again, if I haven't made it clear enough, isolated storms are the word tonight. We're not going to be talking about widespread storm activity. It's not going to be everywhere along the Sunshine Coast or the Brisbane City area. That's going to get smashed. For the most part, 95% of locations are going to completely miss out from these thunderstorms. It's just going to be that unlucky 5% that gets more severe thunderstorm activity. And it also isn't that high end in the grand scheme of things. I mean, some of these thunderstorms are going to get quite strong. We will be seeing some hail cores developing, but in the grand scheme of things, these thunderstorms are not high end, powerful, severe thunderstorms like we saw on Monday. So they're not something I'd be overly concerned about at this point in time. Of course, if you have further questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll have a lot more information as well over on the Facebook page throughout the course of today in regards to what we're seeing here with severe thunderstorm development, and the next 2 hours will be crucial to see what actually can get off the ground here severe thunderstorm wise. I'm going to keep a close eye on this situation here. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a long afternoon, and again, if severe thunderstorms do develop through southeast Queensland, you bet I will be running live coverage to make sure that everybody is as informed as can be in regards to these severe thunderstorms if they can get themselves going. But that's going to be all from me this afternoon. A massive thank you to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. Could not run the show without them, and as always, their support is massively appreciated. And we'll catch you on the next storm. Goodbye.